Hello, good morning. I trust you're doing great. My name is Osmond and this is my YouTube channel. Please subscribe if you have not subscribed. And throughout we've been going through the topic. They've been focusing on Photoshop basics, and today we're going to be treating smart objects. Smart objects, it's one of the greatest thing about Photoshop. I mean, if you come from CorelDRAW, if you understand how to use power clips and how to make use of them in your designs, then just see smart object like, yeah, that's just, they perform almost the same thing. If you come from After Effects, smart object is like a pre-comp. Okay, when you pre-compose 2-3 layers, put them together. If you also come from Adobe Illustrator, smart object is like clip masking or grouping. Okay, they function almost the same thing. Okay, so smart object is just like even if you come from XD, it's also the same like clip masking. Smart object is bringing layers together, and even if it's not layers, but it could be one layer, but it's like keeping them safe, preserving its quality, preserving its shape, and preserving all other features of that particular layer. Okay, you could apply some effect to a layer and convert it into a smart object. What you're trying to do is secure the effect from being lost. Okay, you're also trying to preserve the layer from losing its quality or getting pixelated. Okay, so we're going to look at the difference between a layer that is converted into a smart object and a layer that is not. So create a new layer for that. Let's say 10 by 10, and we bring in some objects. We're going to bring in some objects. And I think this is the best time to explain what Photoshop does when we place embedded, when we use the option of place embedded. Okay, let's say for instance we take this. Okay, it's imported now. So you see an icon. This is the icon that tells you that what you are working with is a smart object. Okay, I'm going to duplicate it, Ctrl J, and remove that smart object by right clicking and rasterize layer, which is making the layer, keeping the layer just the way it is. Now because they are duplicates, one is a smart object, let's quickly rename that smart object, while the other one is just a raster layer. A raster based layer can lose its quality. So let's keep this, stack them on top of each other, just like this. Then select the two. So we said that smart object preserves quality, and we're going to see how that is true. Okay, I think we should make this artboard to duplicate it. So the first quality we want to check is the pixel quality. So we'll call this artboard the pixel quality. Okay, and we duplicate the artboard. I select the artboard and duplicate it, Ctrl J, and the artboard is duplicated. So both the entire layers are there. We see the raster layer, and so but the second artboard we're going to name it effect. Okay, the effect is preserved in this, the other one. Okay, there are other features. The shape, the form of the object is also kept. So, but one thing I want us to do first before we go for that is this kind of For this third example or illustration, we're going to really convert it ourselves into a smart object. I will tell us why. Okay, so but first of all, let's duplicate it first. Control J, and we have it. Oh, I'm supposed to duplicate. Let's Control J. Okay, so we'll rename this shape or form. Shape. Okay, I think it's better form. It's form. Alright, so we have these three artboards, and the first one is effect. Oh, yeah, I'm also no problem. The first one is effect, the second one is pixel quality, and the third one is form. And in them all we have the raster and smart object. But I said for this form, we are going to really convert the smart object in this form, convert it to smart object ourselves. So it's very easy to do. You just right click and you see convert to smart object. Okay, if you have my Photoshop keyboard file, I used a shortcut Alt F3 for converting of smart object. So that is, so it's converted now. So I am very sure that this is converted to a smart object than the way it originally came. Now there's difference between how it originally came and the one you converted. I will explain when I get to that point. So first of all, let's start with the effect. When effect is applied to images like this and they are not smart objects, they will accept the effect, but the challenge is that they cannot be altered any longer. A very good example is if we apply the hue and saturation effect. The hue and saturation effect has a shortcut as Control U. Okay, and in that we can change the color. Okay, this is something you will notice. Can change the color. We just change the color right now to this. Now if we click OK to this, it becomes permanent. Meanwhile, if we also do the same thing to this smart objects layer and click OK, it's not permanent. One thing it can do is that it can give us the option of changing it again. So when we double click here, we see where the last effect we did, where we stopped, and we can move that to somewhere else or take it back to its original state where it was before at 0. Okay, if we type 0 there, we take it back to its original state. We can, adjust it to a new color if we want. Okay, so this is the effect. This one has swallowed the effect and lost its original effect. You have to import the image again. If you do this kind of thing, it's not a smart object and you have already applied an effect on it. Alright, so take note of that. The next one is the pixel quality. The pixel quality. So for that, I'll come to this artboard. So the pixel quality simply is when we try to reduce and increase and reduce and increase in the process of designing. Okay, you know that you can be adjusting the object. Let's first of all start with the raster base. Press Ctrl T to transform. And now we've reduced it. And we also do the same to the smart object. We reduce it. Increase it back again. We're going to increase this back way this big. And press Enter key. Trying to set that. Okay, press Ctrl T, increase this, and press Enter key. Now, if you come, remember they are the same image. If you come to the two image, maybe I should turn this upside down so you will see the difference. Flip vertical. Okay. Now, if you come to the two images, now you will notice that one is blurry and one is still sharp. Okay, let's reduce it again. With this time around, we'll select the 2, Ctrl T, and reduce it so much. Then Ctrl T again, increase it back. It should be more obvious now. Yeah, it's more obvious now that this is very blurry, but this is still okay. So this is one thing, the quality is lost every time it's a raster based layer, but then when it's a smart object, the quality is retained. So move over to the next form. Now the next form is where I'm going to explain the difference between PSD and PSB. Let me quickly type that so that we know. Well, the difference between PSD and PSB. PSD and PSB. Okay, when working with smart objects and we want to access those smart objects, like we want to reshape them and all that, it's very possible, especially that I converted this to smart object. If you remember, converted this to smart object. When you right click on it and edit content, edit content, you have a new window opened where you have the content, just the content inside. Sometimes there could be more content, meaning that we can decide to add anything we want to add here. Okay, we can decide to add anything we want to add here, maybe like a shape here. And when we save, okay, you put a color. When we save, control and save, we can come back to where it is and we'll find that rectangle showing there. We added a rectangle. I just don't know why my Photoshop is not showing this at this point. Okay, today's Photoshop is very funny. Okay, so what we have there is showing here, but here's something we can do. We can decide to deform it. I'm coming to explain this PSD and PSB, but I'm just trying to explain what's happening here. We can decide to deform this, like let me right click after I've pressed Ctrl T and I say distort, and it allows me to take each node and reshape it. So maybe I keep it this way and I press enter. We have deformed this, but in the original smart object nothing happened. It's just the way it is. Even if you put something like a letter there, now put a letter there, create a new layer and type smart object. Okay, it's black, change it to yellow, and maybe just like that. Character, reduce it and just place it like that and save it. Alright, if we come to the practice class, you will see that that's exactly how it's showing, just the way it is over there. It's going to take on of that same deformity, but this particular smart object window is not altered in any way. This is the basics of creating mockup, that you can change the shape of a particular object in one particular maybe in this window, but in its original window, that's its origin, the shape is not altered in any way, except you alter it in this window, then it can show here. So for instance, you can decide to alter this shape here. Let's say Ctrl T and right click and distort and move it this way and press enter. It says the operation will turn like yes. Okay, and it's distorted now, and we must save, then we'll go back to it. It is now distorted here because this is its origin. This window is its origin. But what I'm saying is that whatever you do here is not affecting the original object itself, including changing of color, like the effect thing we added before, which is Control U and change the color and click OK. It is not affecting the original layer itself, so that's fun. Now back to the PSD and PSB. Alright, whenever you want to save a file for the first time, you will see .psd just as you have here. Okay, well, let me just assume I want to save this. Control S, Control Shift S. What you see here and in the save as type is PSD and PDD, PSDT, but the original thing Photoshop uses is PSD. Okay, but there are more options, like you have the PSB, large document format. For the large document format, this is for when you are dealing with objects that are larger than 2 GB in size. Photoshop automatically converts it to PSB because the document is larger than 2 GB. But there are other times where Photoshop converts it into a PSB, but it is not even up to 2 GB. Such documents are the smart objects that you imported. That Photoshop created when you imported them. Okay, let's take this object for instance. Okay, we hide this now. Okay, so this object came in a smart object, and if we edit content, it will open in a new window. It's showing us that it's trying to act like a smart object, but guess what? By the time you add something, maybe like an image to it, I don't know, I have to do a rectangle now because the rectangle thing is not favoring us here. Okay, let's say create a new layer and we draw a selection and put a color, anything at all, and deselect it, and we have that. When we want to save, that's where the problem is. It's telling us can't save this document back to its original file format. Flatten layers and discard extra data as necessary. Then choose File, Save Again. It's trying to make us destroy this original form. Okay, so what this means is that the smart object that this particular object came in with, that was created by Photoshop, cannot in any way preserve quality. We have to actually do the converting to smart object ourselves. So don't rely on this if you know you want to really change the shape of the object itself. But back to really let's go back to where we have that. When we wanted to save and it told us this, it's trying to tell us save as, and by the time we click OK to this, what it's trying to say is, if you select the save button, no, not save now, save as button for this, and if you pay attention, you will notice that where this is originally stored is in the temp file. Look at Z app data local temp file. That's where it's originally stored. Okay, and if you watch other smart objects, when you go to File, Save As, it's also stored in the temp file, but look at, it's stored here as large document format, PSB. This is very helpful because if, for instance, now your Photoshop crashes when you are working, you can come to the temp file and pick up the object that was lost. Maybe Photoshop didn't even recollect any of this, so you can come to the temp file. And how do you reach the temp file? Simply by pressing the window key and R on your keyboard. You type this, exactly what you see here. I always use it, so that's it. You type this %temp and % in front. Once you click OK, you will be open to where the temp file is, and that's a smart object because I arranged, I kind of sorry, I had deselected. Now I kind of I group them by date modified. So you are seeing today all the files that are stored today by the temp file. So this is the smart object we just opened, this particular one. So that's what we are talking about. Now if this Photoshop crashes, PSB files are recovered from the temp folder, okay. But for this particular one we open, this birthday, when we go to the save as, the challenge is that because it's not the original kind, you may not see it here. So if it's lost, okay. And it's of no use anyway, except you create or except you convert it into a smart object. So that's something you should take note of about PSB and PSD. So we have talked about the smart object, we've talked about the features, then how to create them. We have also talked about that, okay. And that will be it for now. What it means is that furthermore we'll be applying smart objects to most of our works if you follow through. Okay, let me just show you the last example. For instance, we can select all these layers, this raster layer, the birthday design, and the smart object, and convert to smart object. And you can see they took the first name. Let me undo that. They took the first layer name. When we convert to smart object, it takes the first layer's name. Then when we apply effect like maybe shadow, for instance, shadow will be very visible, okay, make it very obvious. It applies to all of them generally. It's working like a group. So there's a shadow there, and we can also go inside and readjust the shape of things. You go inside and you can adjust the shape of things and save. When you come back, it has also adjusted, including the shadow too. The shadow has adjusted, so you can put layers together, stack them together, and you just know the quality is preserved, the form is also preserved, except with deformity here, but it's not deformed, it's in its original state. And so that's it about the smart object. And make sure you try to watch this video over and over again to understand it very well. And if you have not subscribed, please subscribe and hit the bell notification icon so that you can know about tutorials once I post them. The next class will be treating on adjustment layers, and we'll go from there. All right, thank you very much. Until next class, peace.